Good afternoon and welcome to the first work session of the new mayor and council for the city of Hagerstown. We're going to jump right in. On our agenda for today is, number one item is to establish a meeting schedule, an agenda process, and seating arrangements. I'm going to say the seating arrangements look pretty good. I'm sure that there'll be somebody else in your seat at some point in time.
Glad to vacate, Mr. Mayor.
If everybody's okay with the seats that they've chosen, we okay with that? All right, sounds good. Yeah, your seat never changes, Kristen, yeah. All right. All right, you should have a handout on the meeting schedule.
This was just a draft formulated assuming Tuesdays, but that is up to you. So this would just sort of be continuation of Tuesdays and the three or so work sessions in a month with your regular session normally being the last meeting of the month.
Work session starting at 4 o'clock and the regular session
Yes.
starting at 7. Yes.
Normally, if there's an executive session, a lot of times those are at 3 o'clock. Those are normally held upstairs in room 407, but of course you would be notified ahead of time if that's the case.
Schedule suit everybody? Suits me. All right, and then the agenda process. Reading the material that was handed out, says you put the agenda together. Sure, you put the agenda together.
Well, we wanted to have a little discussion on, and I think we can get into this too a little bit when the legal folks are talking, but in the rules of procedure, which is something we want to review tonight, it talks about the agenda, but it's very much like the city clerk puts it together. Well, obviously, of course, Donna's working on that, she's putting it together, but we really wanted to have something more in place that sets, who sets the agenda. Now, what we've been doing is, I, of course, work with the department heads on items that we know are of interest to mayor and council. We're working on putting those together. We kind of talk about, when we'll be ready for that. Dawn and I would sort of set the agenda. We would review that with Mayor Geisberts. If he was okay with that, we would normally send out a draft to everyone, make sure that they were okay with that. Process is, Mayor, you can add something to an agenda. 3 or more council members can add an agenda item. But we just really wanted to have a process in place. And if you were all okay with that, we can continue in that vein.
Yeah, Bruce and I, back in the day, used to, he'd put the agenda together just so she was laid
Right.
out, and then.
And normally
he'd
after
sit
the
down.
meetings, we would review it with the mayor, and if everything looks set, then we would kind of okay that for the next week.
Sounds good, and at any time, if a council member wishes to discuss an item that we haven't discussed yet, or need to reopen again an item, just let Valerie or I know, and we'll put it back on the agenda. Does that
So
sound
what we
good to
can
you?
do is add a little bit of that language to the actual rules of procedure, so we can have something in place.
Sounds
Okay.
fine. Yeah.
Very good.
Okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. All right, sounds good. All right, well, then we're gonna move on to the second item, which is a discussion with Jason and Jennifer, our city attorneys.
Okay, I will start, and I know we've all met. I'm Jennifer Kiefer, this is Jason Morton. We're gonna be giving you a brief introduction, just an overview of the city government. I wanna say it's a pleasure to be the first person who gets to make a presentation to this mayor and city council, and we're excited to work with you guys. And I know there are some very experienced members here, and you're probably thinking that you've heard all of this before, so thank you for your patience. And I'll try to be brief as I provide an overview of the basics that are set forth in the charter. I just want to start with an overview of municipal governments in the state of Maryland in general, and all city governments are creatures of the state of Maryland. They can act only in the areas of government that are permitted by the state in the Constitution and state code, and as interpreted and frequently limited by judicial opinions. There are several different forms of government that are recognized by the state for towns and cities who want a municipal government. So cities, by their citizens, choose the form they want, and then through their charter, they define the organization, powers, function, and essential procedures. If the city wants additional powers later, it'll have to ask the state, and the state can grant additional powers through what's called enabling legislation. So moving on to the charter, if you haven't read the charter, or if it's been a while, I recommend reading it, because the charter really is the first and most fundamental place to go to find out if the city has the authority or the power to do something. It does three basic things. It sets up the organization of city government. It establishes how the city goes about carrying out its governmental function, and it defines the roles of the various parts of the government. And our charter is what's often referred to as a council-manager form. That means that it has two branches. The first is the legislative branch, which is made up of the mayor and city council. And the legislative branch determines policies and matters for the city to deal with. It passes legislation through ordinances, and it hires and oversees the manager, which leads me to the second branch, which is the administrative branch, headed by the manager, in this case, our city administrator. She's responsible for and carries out the day-to-day operations of the government. The mayor and council as a body, but not individually, supervise the city administrator. The mayor is the presiding officer of the council, and if you think about it like a corporation, he's like a chairman of the board of directors. So while his powers and duties differ from the council's, he's part of the legislative branch. So essentially there are four players involved in governing the city: the council, the mayor, the administrator, and the voters. And at the end of the day, the ultimate authority is with the voters by exercising their right to vote every 4 years, by petitioning for a referendum during the 4-year period for either ordinances or charter amendments, and then with their right to participate in public hearings. Article 2 of the charter addresses the responsibilities and authorities of the council. All legislative powers are vested in a council of 5 members, and that means you all have lawmaking powers. All actions can only be done by council with at least 3 favorable votes. And there is one exception to that in section 304 of the charter. If the council is tied on an action other than an ordinance or filling a vacant council seat, then the mayor can cast a deciding vote in favor. I'm just going to briefly go through the timeline of the passage of an ordinance. And it starts with an introduction. Following the introduction of the ordinance, there's a waiting period of at least 6 days, but not more than 60 days. Within that time period, the ordinance must be passed, rejected, or deferred to a specific time. 3 council votes are required to pass or approve an ordinance, and after approval, it will become effective at the end of 30 days or on the 31st day. Also needed is the approval of the mayor. First, it has to be delivered to the mayor, and it's considered as being delivered to the mayor at the time of council approval. If the mayor disapproves, he has 10 days in which he must return the ordinance to the council with written reasons for his veto. The council would then have 35 days to override his veto, and that would require at a minimum a 4-to-1 vote. If the mayor approves, he signs it within 10 days and returns it to council. If the mayor does nothing within 10 days of delivery, it shall be deemed approved, and in either one of those cases, it becomes law. Section 209 of the city charter provides for a petition by voters to have a referendum election on an ordinance. It requires that the petition must be filed within 30 days following approval or following the passage of an ordinance over a mayor's veto. It must contain the signatures of at least 20% of the qualified voters, and then the council would submit the referendum issue to vote either at the next general election or at a special election. Article 3 of the charter addresses the role of the mayor. Section 304 addresses his powers and duties. As the city's chief elected executive officer, he has the duty to see that the ordinances of the city and the provisions of the charter are followed. And that's actually a duty that both the mayor and the city administrator have. That policies and resolutions of the council are executed, and that no policy or resolution shall be changed without prior city approval. He presides over council meetings. He has a duty to make an annual report and make recommendations for city action. He has the ability to veto ordinances, and on resolutions, policies, actions taken and voted on by council, if the vote is tied at 2-2, he can break the tie. And if not inconsistent with the charter, the council can also give him additional powers. Article 4 addresses the powers of the city. The city has general omnibus powers, basically anything that the public general or public local laws and constitution authorize a municipal corporation to do. But the city also has, the charter also provides a specific list of things that the mayor and council are authorized to do by ordinance. Right now, it's a list of 58 different items. Again, I suggest that you review the charter, and I think that's something that you could also benefit by reviewing as well. City powers are not carte blanche. They're often limited by the state laws enabling them, and the state laws also often set certain processes and procedures that have to be followed. And then the Maryland appellate courts also will issue opinions where they interpret the laws and actions taken by cities, and those opinions frequently have the effect of placing limits. For example, Maryland case law has established that the city does not have authority to delegate its legislative powers. So looking to the charter is the first and fundamental place to look to see if the city has power, and then look to the state public general laws and case law to see if there are any instruction, guidance, or requirements. Article 5 deals with voters and election, the registration process, nomination, and elections. I'm not going to go into that in any more detail. Article 6 addresses the role of the city administrator. The mayor and council appoint the city administrator. The council sets compensation in terms of employment, and ultimately the city administrator is responsible to the mayor and council. The city administrator has certain powers and duties. Generally, like I said, there's the day-to-day management of the city, its affairs, and its employees. The administrator has the authority to appoint, remove, and suspend employees, to direct and supervise departments. She has a requirement to attend council meetings. She oversees the execution of all laws, charter provisions, and acts of council. This is, again, a duty that the mayor also has. She will submit an annual budget and capital program, will provide financial reports and make other reports as council may require. She'll keep the council advised of the needs of the city and make recommendations, and perform other duties as specified in the charter or as required by the council. So again, to make an analogy to a corporation, the city administrator is like the president or CEO. The mayor is the chairman of the board, the council is the board of directors, and the citizens are the shareholders. I'm going to talk specifically about section 603, and I'll read it. This deals with the council, administrator, and city employees. The mayor and council shall have the power, including the power of subpoena, to investigate all matters involving city employees and their official duties. The council may require, through the city administrator, any information or records considered important to any investigation, and may require, through the city administrator, any employee, including the administrator, to appear before it. Neither the mayor nor any council member shall, as an individual, direct any city employee concerning his official duties. The mayor and council shall direct city employees, boards, and commissions only when acting in their capacity as an official body. So the first sentence is a statement that indicates that the mayor and council have some check of the city administrator. By being empowered to have an investigative role where city employee matters are concerned, or where city employees' official duties are concerned. The second sentence establishes that in this area, the mayor and council would effectuate this power through the city administrator. And the third sentence establishes that the mayor and council must act as a body when directing employees, boards, and commissions. The city employees are directed as to what to do by the city administrator or by their department heads, and through the collective voice of the mayor and council by action taken by the mayor and council with 3 favorable votes. Employees generally don't work on projects or ideas of individuals until these projects and ideas become a project of the city body as a whole. I'm going to step away from the charter for just a minute, and I'm going to talk about 2 important acts that are set forth in the state code. The first is the Open Meetings Act. And this is actually contained within the general provisions article of the state code. Generally, the policy is to hold meetings in public, and there's also a requirement to give adequate notice and make meetings and meeting minutes easily accessible to the public. The purpose here is to foster trust and confidence in the government, ensure accountability, and also promote the public's participation. But the Open Meetings Act also balances that purpose with certain legitimate privacy interests, and it establishes specific instances where it's permissible to close a meeting to the public. These exceptions include topics such as personnel discussions, legal advice from the city attorney, and certain subjects that must be kept confidential pursuant to other laws. The Open Meetings Act also establishes certain requirements for creating and keeping minutes or records of the meeting, and it defines what constitutes a meeting that would be subject to the requirements of the Act. And then the Public Information Act is also contained within the general provisions article of the state code, and it gives the public a right to access governmental records without unnecessary cost or delay. But like the Open Meetings Act, it balances the public's right to access records with other laws and policies that require and/or respect the privacy or confidentiality of certain information. For example, there's the attorney-client communications and privilege, again, employee personnel records, or information that is deemed confidential pursuant to some other state or federal law. I'll turn back to the charter now. I'm going to skip over Article 7, which deals with finance, and I will go to Article 8, which deals with personnel. I'll just talk briefly about the role of the city attorney. We act as a legal advisor to the city. We only carry out the legal tasks that are assigned to us, and we do as we're directed to by the mayor and city council. We advise, but we don't make decisions. This is also something that you might run into. We don't advise the public, so it's generally not a good idea to suggest that a citizen call us if they approach you with a legal question. But an exception to that might be if they're asking about the city's legal position on a specific city matter. We can tell them a position if it's one that we know the city has taken and if we are authorized to speak about it. We hope that you will all feel free to call us if you have a question or feel that you need advice on any matter. If you feel you may need advice as an individual, you can call us and we'll explore the situation with you confidentially. If it's within an area where the advice is about a city matter, then we'll also advise you accordingly. And we hope that each of you will feel encouraged to call us and or confer with us regarding any matters, large or small. Jason and I each have areas of the law that we are more familiar with, but either one of us will take your call about any matter, and our discussions will be confidential. And again, we're really looking forward to working with you. I know Jason's going to speak, so I don't want to take the wind out of your sails, but we are looking forward to working with you, and we're excited about the next 4 years.
Thank you, Jen. Well, I'm going to talk to you all about ethics, and I used to teach legal ethics to paralegals, and they all had the same expression that you do right now, so try to make it a little bit more exciting. Now, Jen's homework to you all was to read the charter. I'm going to give you a shorter homework assignment, which is to take a look at the code of ethics that is in the city code. That's at chapter 33, and at chapter 35, you will find the city's provision with respect to the Ethics Commission, which is a board composed of 5 city members, and I will talk about them in a moment. While the Code of Ethics is not an easy read, it's not as long as the charter. And if you look online, instead of lugging around this book, it's only about this big. I do ask that you look at that, and then chapter 35. And the purpose of the code, and this is what I used to tell students when I taught, is that we want the public to have confidence and trust in its government, and we want the process by which decisions are made to be as transparent as possible. And so in order to show the folks, the people, that you are both impartial and fair-minded, and that applies, by the way, not just to you all as the mayor and city council, but to all of the city employees and boards of commissions, because they're all subject to the code of ethics that the city has prescribed. But everyone is subject to that. And I think it's important not just to strive to meet the legal bar that is set by the code of ethics, but also to show that there's not even the appearance of impropriety. That's sort of the aspiration of this and any ethical code. So if you take a look at the code itself, there's an extensive list of acts which are prohibited. I'm not going to go through that all with you right now, but for example, you should be very cautious about accepting gifts from people. Disclosure of confidential information is prohibited, and particularly confidential information which could be of economic benefit to third parties who might come across that information. Questions about whether a particular act or a relationship is violative of the Code of Ethics can be referred to the Ethics Commission. One of the things that they do is to kind of provide advisory opinions. They certainly hear cases involving violations of the code. Also, they have the power to render an exception, because sometimes, particularly in a smaller city as we are, everyone knows everyone, and strict adherence to the code is difficult. So the Ethics Commission has the authority to grant exceptions to the code on those occasions. The Ethics Commission is composed of 5 members, all of whom are appointed by the mayor and serve a term of 5 years. Their terms are all staggered, and when the next appointment that will become vacant will be in September of next year, and I can't tell you whose that is, but 2 of the members get nominated by the mayor with the advice and consent of the city council. 2 are nominated by city council, and then 1 by the city administrator. So you will have a role in that in the not too distant future. Our code of ethics was revised a few years back to make sure that we were in compliance with the state requirements for ethical codes, and it is the requirement of our Ethics Commission to certify its compliance with state law every year in October of each year, and we are in compliance. Other than just looking at the ethical code, you will have the obligation to complete a financial disclosure statement. You've already done one as elected officials. Your next one will be due on April 30th of next year. Again, as you've all done either as candidates or as elected officials, you've gone through that process. They are very, very thorough. If you have any questions about completing that code, again, I encourage you to talk to the Ethics Commission with respect to any questions that you have. When you file your disclosure form with the Ethics Commission, it is a public record. It is available to anyone who comes in, pays. I don't know what fee is involved, but there's a fee that's involved in getting that. And then that person just has to give his residence address. As people who make the disclosures, you are entitled to know whether anyone asked to look at your particular form, so you can ask the Ethics Commission to provide that information to you as well. I think that covers everything that I have with respect to ethics. Again, to the extent that you have questions, I encourage you to, Jen's just talked about how we're here as your legal counsel. We are here to do that. I think particular specific questions with respect to ethics should be forwarded to the Ethics Commission, because they are the ultimate authority on those. We are available to advise you, as Jen has said. And what we discuss is confidential, but understand that if any of you come to us as an individual, you're speaking as a member of the City Council. We advise the entire City Council. So your information, it's as though we're speaking to all of you whenever we speak to you, when we provide legal advice. So we do look forward to working with you, and we find this work to be really challenging and fulfilling. And we're available whenever called upon. We're here at all of the regular sessions, and we're here at work sessions like this as required. Thank you all.
Anybody have any questions for our attorneys? Okay. Thank you very much. It was very informative, and I'm sure I'll do my homework. All right, we'll move on then to the orientation book review.
Okay.
Valerie's gonna lead us in
Yeah, I'll
that.
handle that. I'll just start really by, I'd like to read the welcoming statement, that I have for you, and then we'll just walk through what's in the book. And of course, once you have time to take it, read it, you have any questions back to me, please feel free to call me at any time. Come see me at my office, and we can walk through anything that you need. So basically, congratulations on your election as mayor and city council, and thank you for your commitment to serve the city of Hagerstown. City department heads, their teams, and I are ready to make the next 4 years of this administration a time that produces meaningful, excellent results for you and the community. You now serve in the role as the corporate board of directors for a large municipal corporation that offers a wide-ranging variety of services and programs for the public. The core of your leadership will come from having a unified vision for Hagerstown. I highly recommend that the mayor and council develop a strategic plan during your first year that will establish this unified vision by setting forth your priorities and your goals. Community engagement can be a useful tool as well during this planning period. This will go a long way to prepare you for the opportunities and challenges that you will face. This orientation book includes much information that details where we are today and can be used to assist you with your strategic planning and community engagement going forward. During the next 4 years, city staff and I will support you in reaching your goals for Hagerstown. We are available to assist you in successfully meeting the opportunities and challenges of serving as the governing body for the city. We look forward to the next 4 years and working together to define and successfully obtain your priorities and goals for the betterment of Hagerstown. So really, again, the first section is congratulations and welcome. You'll see the table of contents there. You'll see the oath of office again that you took last night. There is a section on building a strong foundation for community leadership. Mayor and council direction of staff, which is some of the information that Jen walked through with you. There's keys to successful mayor and council staff leadership team. What is also in here is the current vision and mission statement. So again, that is something that you all can work on, either accept as is, change, tweak, add to it. What's in here are the mayor and council goals and priorities that had been established through 2016. So you'll find vision statement, mission statement, core values, and particular goals and projects in there. Let's see, the next section actually has the code of ethics in it. So it has the chapter 33 and 35 that Jason talked about. The next tab has a lot of nice, good community information about Hagerstown, quick overview, some history, benefits of living in the city, some census information. The Community City Center Plan Executive Summary is here. And it's just my recommendation that you all as a body, mayor and council, I think it would be wise to look at that Community City Center Plan and decide probably fairly early on in your term whether or not that continues to be the foundation for the goals that you will want to establish as we move forward. So the executive summary is in here. The next section, what I included here was the entire, my city administrator budget message in its entirety out of the fiscal year, the current fiscal year 17 budget, out of the budget book. Budget book itself has over 400 and some pages in it. It's wonderful, it's very detailed, but this budget message, which I think is about 35 or 30, I think 33 pages long, gives you a very good high-level summary of everything. It's the general fund, it's the enterprise funds, it's the utility funds, everything in there. So that's included. City departments, the department heads' information, contact information is in here, as well as every department head did a great job of giving us a summary of their departments, their operations, their management team. All of that is in there as well. That is in that entire section. And also at the end is the city departmental goals that had been established for 2016. These are departmental goals all the departments are working on, and these goals and your goals form the basis of what team will be working on, what they will be working on to bring to you in work sessions. And that's why it's very important for us to get that direction from you, so that we can build substantial and informative work session topics for you. And let's see what else is in here. The last section is the boards and commissions, and we are going to talk about that a little bit. So it has the listing of the boards and commissions, a little bit about all of them, and then the very last section has information about the Municipal League and the Washington County chapter of the Municipal League. So again, a lot of information. For those of you that are new, it's a lot, but please, anytime you have any questions, don't hesitate to call me or to come see me and we can walk through that. Because it's, it's a lot right off the bat. And I think, Emily, you and I, we talked about upcoming work sessions. We're going to have a lot of kind of heavy topics right off the bat, just because really we're in that process. We're gearing up for budget process already. So, again, don't hesitate to ask any questions or see me. I think that is all that I had. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions for the city
Just a
manager?
comment, Mayor. Val, I'd like to thank you and whoever else did this. This is a
Department heads
great-
played a big role in putting the information together.
It's a great piece of work. It has a lot of valuable information in. It's a great reference book.
Yes.
To last for a long time.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. All right. Thank you, Valerie. Moving on then, we're going to talk a discussion regarding the rules of procedure, which were given to you, and I'm sure that you perused them. Again, except for spelling out, putting the agenda together, I think everything is pretty much the way it's been.
Okay, so I guess I'll turn to Donna. So these will be officially adopted by this body, correct?
Right.
Yes.
And then they'll be used at every meeting? Okay, so that's probably.
Anybody have any suggestions under the rules of procedure? Yes.
I would only comment that I believe there is an 11th edition of Robert's Rules of Order.
Oh, okay,
I don't know that we need to update or include it.
okay. We will, Donna and I will take a look at that, thank you.
I have like the 7th edition. I mean, there's probably more words now. Anybody with any comments on the rules procedure?
So if it's okay, in the meantime, if you do, we probably won't bring this to you until your regular meeting at the end of this month, which will be the 20th. So in the meantime, if you have any other suggestions or any changes that you would like to see in this before we give it to you, we'll go ahead and make that change and have that ready for you. Okay.
All right. Next up is board and commission interest. We're lacking one council member.
Yes.
Keep that in mind. I guess whoever that is just gets put wherever my pen says they get put at.
I do have an update. We did hear from the election board that we should have a decision by Friday on that, so.
So, and I was thinking about that. I know that we had discussed maybe swearing in that person on Friday, but we can make it a little bit more formal and do it Tuesday
Okay, we'll take a look at that.
at the work session.
Okay, we want to make sure that there's not a issue with
Right.
continuance of their service, so even if we do a swearing in on Friday and then have a little bit more formal ceremony on Tuesday, that should work as well, too. Okay.
All right, we'll go over the boards. I know Paul Quarterman probably wants to be put on that bicycle advisory committee.
We're just asking for any
Yeah,
interest
yeah,
tonight.
really, I mean, you have a list.
Yeah.
I will tell you that I have a strong interest on sitting on the Economic Development Commission, and also probably on the Neighborhood's First Leadership Board. Usually, now, I know that Marty was involved with HEMPO before.
Yes.
I was previous to that. It does take some time away from your daytime work activities. Most of the meetings are like 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, if I recall correctly. And they're usually held in Martinsburg or or someplace like that, so, I don't know if anybody's interested in it.
Or did you say you are?
I'm not.
Okay. The Hemco thing, yeah.
Yeah.
I am.
Good, good.
I'll do that.
And you have, the great thing about you is your past experience at, in the state legislature, and I'm sure that'll come in handy.
Well,
Okay, so that was for
hopefully
HEPCO.
it's going to be helpful in getting I-81 done
Mm-hmm.
before,
In our lifetime.
in our lifetime.
Yeah,
Yes.
let's say it that way,
In our
yeah.
lifetime, good way to put it. Right.
Anybody else have any preferences as you look the list over?
I'd be interested in the economic development.
Okay.
Who did was Penny on the Housing Authority?
I have an interest in that.
You do? I thought you might, yeah. Kristen.
Housing, okay.
And Councilmember Munson was as well.
Okay. Those two, yeah. Community Rescue Service, anybody? I know if Lou actually comes out
Retains.
victorious, yeah, on Friday or whatever, he's always been a big part of that.
Okay, and again, we don't have to
Right.
decide this tonight. We just thought if there was, you really had an interest in something in particular, let us know now, and then we can get these finalized.
Mayor, for the last 4 years, I've been serving on the Hagerstown Housing Authority. Unless you want to do that,
I'm okay not to.
I'm
On the
sorry.
Housing Authority,
Okay, well, I'll continue to do that
Well,
one.
Kristen had already,
Kristen
Oh,
had said
did
so-
you?
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. Okay.
but were there two on that one, Dawn?
I did not.
Councilmember Nye and Councilmember Munson
Yeah,
served on that. I
That's
think
fine.
alternated. Is that the
Okay.
way you two handled that?
I'm sorry.
Did you, between you and Councilmember Nye, did one go 1 month and one go another one?
No, I showed up at the meetings, and Penny showed up at some of the meetings. No,
Okay.
there's no issue. That's fine.
Okay. I mean, nothing precludes you from going, period. So,
I know.
it's fine, yeah.
Doma, I absolutely can't do as a planning commission. I have a scheduling conflict,
Okay.
so.
It might be the fifth member. Unless somebody else wants it. Paul, what about you? Anything you're interested in? that you see?
Well, I'm interested in a lot of these things. I need to look at some of the scheduling aspects, as you said earlier.
Okay,
Well, planning commission usually meets in the evening. And they're on Wednesday nights?
yes,
Yeah.
sometimes 4 and 7.
So,
Planning.
Is there a way we could maybe get a list of when they normally meet?
Sure, we can get that to
Yeah,
you.
that'd be helpful.
Okay,
That would just,
How about an
Help-
overview of what
helpful.
each board does? with
yeah,
it?
that would be helpful.
okay, we'll get that out to you.
Each board, how many representatives? Is it just one?
one on the planning commission. Well, there's two. There's two on the EDC, there's two on the Hagerstown Historic District
Otherwise,
Commission.
there's one, yeah.
Yeah. And two on the Neighborhoods First Leadership Board. I mean, I'll gladly sit on that board.
Which one?
Neighborhoods First.
Okay.
You'll take this for the Bicycle Advisory Committee? I know Lou's a big biker though.
Sure,
He has served on that.
he has been on
Yeah.
there. Okay, well.
Okay, let's think about it
We'll
then,
get the
okay?
additional information
If we
to
can get the
you.
list, like I said
Okay.
earlier, of
Sounds good.
Okay,
the times, then it'd be helpful.
Okay, well, there's nothing else on that, then the last item is discussion of mayor and city council top priorities. I know that we've all, during this campaign, have stated our top priorities, pretty much. And if there's anything that you wish to either add now or over the next couple work sessions.
Mayor, I'd like to discuss something. One of the things that I think the last mayor and city council truly got right was our work with urban partners and the plan that was, the 10-year plan that was formed as a result of that work. Quite frankly, I don't think the city has a way forward in terms of progress without that plan in place and continuing to follow that plan. And I would hope that the new council and new mayor would be willing to reaffirm its commitment, their commitment to that plan, and to work vigorously to get it done. When we first came into office last term, we heard over and over and over again, the city doesn't have a plan, the city doesn't have a plan, the city doesn't have a plan. So we considered some alternatives, and with Urban Partners, we finally got a plan. And it's a plan that's workable. It's a plan that will help ensure a good future for the city of Hagerstown. It's a very practical plan. It's a plan that's affordable. And I just really think that it's important that we get on board with a commitment to that plan. Thank you.
I know that there will be some work sessions coming up that have parts of that plan for discussion. So all I can say is we'll see as we go, how each one pans out and what the time frame is for them. I mean, just like the one with the hotel and convention center, that's a big ticket item, huge ticket item. And I believe that, I'm not saying we won't ever do it, I just think that we need to make sure that we're making the right
Well,
decisions fiscally at the same time.
The plan's fairly flexible.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a good vision. It's a good vision.
Actually, we did have a plan in 2009, it was called a strategic plan that the mayor and council before the last one adopted. So there was a plan. But, plans change. I'm fine with that, I understand that. Times change, and you gotta be flexible and be able to do that. So, again, we'll look at each step of the Urban Partners Plan as it moves forward.
Well, and Mayor, as you well know, there are always other opportunities that come
Sure.
along outside the plan.
Sure.
And
And that's why you gotta be flexible, right?
when we got the opportunity that Pinnacle provided for us, the facility out on Frederick Street, that was sort of unexpected in some sense. And, but thanks to some really good work by staff here, some really great work by staff, it worked, it fitted in, and we're gonna be happy to have those 100 jobs working away pretty soon.
Yep. Anybody else have anything on this, Chris?
Yep. So, I have a couple of things, and I think mine are more geared toward or a response of the obvious interests that various parties had during the election process, and in part as it resonated in the positions we took as candidates. So the first that I have, and I don't know, if you want to term these priorities, but I think there are things that these are the things that I think we need to sort of get out of the way or gain resolution to or come to consensus on in order to sort of move onto the pieces. Because I say this, at the sort of the beginning of the various administrations I've had the privilege to be part of, nothing is worse than a confused staff. Trying to send a message to staff of 2 people of a body, of 3 people, of 6 on a body, of an individual of a body, does not work. You do not get anywhere. You do nothing but place staff in an awkward position, make it confusing on what our directives should be, and certainly give an appearance to the public that you're sort of running in place or going backwards. And so the first that I have is as it relates to the referendum. Clearly, that was a big issue, you know, in the election process. That's something that has to be concluded, that I'd like to see concluded, you know, within the first sort of 6 months that we're here. And I say that because every one of us within the next 2 to 3 months are going to be staring at drafts of budget numbers, you know, facing a hole in a budget and, you know, and facing what I frankly see as interest from bargaining units and employee groups on adjustments, you know, in wages and benefits and you know, and pay scales and things like that. We have contracts that, you know, that we extended. And so for me, you know, you can't get anything accomplished unless you know where your budget's going. So for me, that, I guess that's priority one. And a part of that priority is resolving the, you know, the addition of the binding arbitration and the contracts that we have. One thing that would be helpful to me in anticipation of these budget numbers that we get, that I'd like to see from staff, so that everybody sitting here now as elected individuals and not as candidates has a keen understanding and awareness of, is what this talk of being made whole or being brought current means. I'd like to know what that figure is. I think that's important for us to see as we go into these budget discussions, to say, okay, you know, here's our revenue, here's our expense, here's what we expect it to be. We expect to be, you know, when you get your numbers 3 months from now, and if you were able to accomplish, you know, the directives of the wage interest, you know, being brought current, here's what the additional number is. I think that's important, because then it gives perspective of where else you have in the budget to go. And I say that because at last budget cycle, you know, I think sort of a daunting fact is, while we certainly take on a myriad of revenue sources, our property tax, which is our biggest, about 28 million, now exceeds what we pay out in wages and benefits for the first time last year. And so that's just a fact. It's a reflection of where we're at budgetarily, and so that, for me, is a priority. The second item for me that is a priority, and again, this is a bit of a reflection from the election process, is the interest that the Property and Landlords Association as an entity had in the election process, as it applies to the things that the most recently concluded administration put in place for code updates, code changes, code addition, code improvements, whatever you want to call them. But, you know, there's clearly no shortage of changes to the code that were made that apply to vacant structures and rentals and basic residential and commercial and you name it. And so, you know, if there are directions other than what is in place, I think it's important for us to understand what those different directions may be, and vet them with this new body as you know, as soon as practical, and decide if there is a change in those courses, if there are adjustments in those that you know, that there's an interest of the majority to make. So that to me, I think is issue number 2, because I think more emails than anything else you'll get or hear about or conversations about are going to be from folks that say, you know, guess what your city staff did to me, sort of approach to a conversation, whether it's in your grocery store or an email or whatever. And so I think that it would be important to sort of have those discussions, so that staff isn't going about the directives of those ordinances that frankly simply exist in a manner that they would then be indicated to do otherwise. The third item, as Don mentioned, and I think as the mayor and Don said very well, is the Urban Partners Plan. There's 8 items. I think it's no secret that they are completely flexible, that some of them may or may never come to be. And each one of those 8 items, though, is so far along in their individual paths. And I think it's important for us as a body early on to understand sort of where each of those sort of 8 items are in their path of, or course of being carried out, of completion. Because if there is any one of those items that there isn't a majority that says, yes, that particular item is a priority for us, then basically we've got staff out there working on something that we don't even want to do. And I think that would be disingenuous for staff to then come in, and say, hey, I've got this, that we've gotten so much done in the last 2 months on this hotel convention center idea, and you go, well, we're not interested in doing that. And so I'd rather just sort of be able to say to staff as a body, here are the ones that are priorities for us. But I think to be able to understand that, it would be good for us to understand as a complete body where each of those are in process.
Sounds like a work session.
Because you maybe have a mindset to move something further than it reasonably is at this point, or reverse something that is reasonably beyond that ability for reversal. And so I think that's key. The last 2 items I have, the first is more a procedural issue, and that's as it applies to executive sessions. I don't know what everybody's schedule is, but I will say this. I know that in the most recent administration, we did have executive session at 3 o'clock. I certainly understand that that's a benefit to staff, but I would only say this. I think that that's done for 2 reasons. One, it's a benefit to staff, to not be waiting here till 7 o'clock to do it. And 2, trying to do an executive session on these big issues after 3 hours of meeting on regular stuff is a bit draining. It just is, and you don't give it the focus you probably would prefer if it comes in early. But all I'll say is if there are those moments where it's a board or commission appointment or something like that, that we don't come in at 3 or 3:30 for that, we can put that at the end of the agenda and be done with it.
Something simple like that.
Yeah, where staff doesn't have to wait.
Right.
And I only say that maybe out of a bit of selfishness, that, of getting here at 3 o'clock every time for every one of those. So if it doesn't involve staff, if it's not some big issue, that's why we can't do that one, at the end of a work session. And then, the last one's just a simple response to the mayor's question about, does anybody have any individual priorities? I'll just reiterate, I've said this for some time. I know that the stadium will certainly come up as a discussion of this body. It's like the never-ending story that will never be concluded and never go away and never get resolved. I don't have a huge opinion of it, pro or against. I will just say that from experience, I haven't seen a bunch of support for it. But, for my own interest, I continue to have an interest in an indoor turf facility. I continue to say that it's odd that we place so much energy in the construction of an amenity that not a lot of folks seem to want, and no energy in an amenity that all of our kids are leaving to go enjoy. And so that's just my 2 cents on that particular issue.
All right, anybody else on priorities?
I have something I'd like to say about priorities. The urban plan, of course, I think should be our #1 priority. I agree with what Mr. Munson said. We have to kind of come up with a plan and quickly, that way things aren't dragging on. Something that we all said over and over again in our answers through our candidacy period was public safety is #1 to the majority of us. Everyone says public safety and health. Right now, it's well documented, we have a heroin crisis, not just Hagerstown, but our surrounding areas. And I know, me personally, when I was knocking on doors leading up to this election, that was the number one thing that people wanted to talk about. Something that Hagerstown and Washington County as a whole lacks right now that is affecting our citizens is a detox center. We don't have any detox beds in the hospital. We don't have any place where people can go detox before they enter a rehab facility. And it's detrimental to the health of our citizens. It's a major concern to them. I would like to see us partner with whoever we have to partner with, whether it be the county, and get some funding and get something in place so when someone goes to a hospital and says, I need help, they can get it. Because right now, that's not happening. It's a major concern to our citizens. It's a concern to me. And I think that it's something that needed to take place a while ago. So right now, it's a priority. It needs to happen sooner than later. So I'd like to have,
I'll be,
explore that.
just a heads up, I'll be meeting with Senator Serafini and Delegate Wilson at the end of the week, and that's one of the conversations we're gonna have. I believe that we can get something to that effect, especially through the governor's heroin committee
Right.
and all those things. So I think it's important. I totally agree. I mean, you know, when one shows up at the hospital and has OD'd, and then, you know, they keep them for 24 hours, 36 hours, usually tops, kick them out, and now they're just jonesing for that next fix, and it doesn't do anything. It doesn't break that cycle.
You actually get turned away if you need to detox, unless you're admitted for something else.
Right, for an
And
OD,
that's
yeah.
horrifying. It's not acceptable anywhere, and it's just something that we need to bring attention to. And there are funds. I know Governor Hogan is big on it, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Paul, anything from you?
Kristen hit on a few of mine already. The first one he said with the referendum, and also piggybacking on what Emily said with the public safety, obviously they go hand in hand. You know, binding arbitration's gonna be a reality here in the city of Hagerstown with the referendum that's passed. I think the goal of this administration council is to be able to have those open and fair negotiations with our fire and police unions so that we don't have to go down that road. I appreciate Councilman Cheryl's point about getting those specific numbers. I think that'll obviously make things a lot more clear to everyone sitting here. Follow that up with the growth and development aspect and broadening the tax base. The landlord and property owners were obviously very interested in this election, and you know, there may be emails and conversations that happen here and there in grocery stores and whatnot, but when you continue to hear the same concerns from multiple and different people, it's not just a one-off, it's not just a one specific thing there. There's an issue there, and I look forward to us as a group, you know, working together and help work those things out. You know, as far as the stadium and the soccer facility that Kristen mentioned, I mean, I think they're both great ideas, and you know, a lot of this stuff is going to play out, you know, as we continue through these sessions. But my main thing is I'm just excited to work together here with everybody here. You know, together better Hagerstown is not just a cliche on a sign.
Wasn't just tagline?
Yeah, I liked it. Don't get me wrong.
And it was good.
It was good, but I do believe in it. And I've reached out to everyone at this table before today, and I truly do believe that you know, we're going to be able to work together and do great things for the city of Hagerstown. You know, I thought it was wonderful articles in the paper last week about the outgoing administration, all the nice things that were said of everybody that was going out. But you know, I think our goal is to be able to build upon that success and to carry it forward. I look forward to being part of that.
Good. Don, anything else from you?
Well, I already mentioned
The urban partnership?
plan, but I will mention this. We got to pay for all this stuff somehow.
Without a doubt, yeah.
That's it.
Just a heads up, I'll give you my top priorities. Budget is number one, without a doubt, and I'll be happy to see what Michelle and Karen can put together about making people whole as far as it comes to salaries of unions. You know, it's very important that we we treat our budget just like we treat our household budgets. You know, we just can't snap our fingers at home and make more money appear. Well, we can do at this table when you raise taxes. So we just need to concentrate on priorities. I did a show with Mark Graham this past week, and I said, in my mind, there's two budgets. You know, there's a need budget and there's a want budget. The need budget we have to fund every single time. The want budget, that's the leftover budget. That's whatever we have left over to do things we want to do. We need to do the things that we need to do first. So, and if that means finding a way to retain good employees, and that means finding a way to retain good employees. Well, that's all I have. That's my number one priority, which I'll be working on probably starting tomorrow morning. I'm going to go meet some department heads and talk about some issues with them when it comes to budgetary items. Just give you a heads up so you don't get surprised when someone calls you. Says, oh, Mayor was just there. God, I hate him. Yeah, so, no, don't. Anyway, I look forward. I think we have as I said to the paper and NBC 25 last night, we have a very well-rounded council. We have new individuals who are coming in with new ideas and some business acumen. We have returning members who have a great history and a lot of knowledge, and I think those will mesh greatly together. So that's it for me. Anything else from you?
Nothing additional?
Wow. We finish up, this is the kind of meetings I like, when you get to finish up 45 minutes early. All right, anything to add? Council comment? Just that you're happy to be here at the table.
I am happy to be here. Looking forward to the next 4 years.
Mr. O'Shea.
I do. So I participated in the pop-up shops the last 2 weeks, and the first thing to say is a big thank you to the downtown movement. I think that it was a good success for them. I think that they were struggling a bit. It felt at times probably like two events because they were really trying to focus on improving efforts at the farmers market and trying to, you know, make a go of the repeat success in the downtown storefronts. So you know, I can give them great credit for being able to juggle that. And in concert with that, certainly thanks to staff for, you know, their equal sort of partnership and effort in that process. One thing that I wanted to ask, though, and I certainly got a number of comments, and I don't know if folks went to the farmers market one of the 2 weekends, but there was a number of individuals that are standing in sort of what we'll call the median parking meter area during the course of both events, at which time entering and leaving, probably much like many of the folks that came and left myself, I experienced those individuals coming up, you know, asking for money, sort of panhandling, what have you, and it wasn't a comfortable atmosphere in that type of environment for individuals you're trying to attempt to encourage to get there. Anyway, I don't know who has the answer to this, but when I left Saturday, there was a van with a WMATC. I think that's the acronym on the side of the van. I don't know what it stands for. I don't know what the purpose is, but it picked up about half of the individuals. And so, you know, the van only had the capacity to take half the individuals at a time. I don't know whether it's, you know, it's a bus stop or you know, a makeshift stopover or layover, but I don't know if anybody else was there and had the same experience, but I certainly had people come in and they see me and say, hey, what, you know.
What time was
what's this all
that?
about?
Was that at the beginning of the, or just all day on Saturday?
It was each time I was there.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
Even on I think even on the Wednesdays when we went and worked
Oh, okay.
and did some work, we would show up to do the work there.
We'll have the chief take a look at that.
Google it.
Yeah.
Got it?
Mhm.
I actually do have a comment. Just a
We
comment.
don't get to go backwards.
Oh, too bad.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to commend our police department for their recent efforts that they had at Elgin Station. I was able to attend. It was a police community event where the community got to speak very honestly to the police department, and the police department got to speak very honestly back to our community. I think in the environment that we live in, with social media and the sharing of videos, and not necessarily pertaining to the Hagerstown incident, but in general, we need more of that. We need to encourage more of that. It was very encouraging to be there. Everyone got to share their side of the story. I feel like everyone that was in Elgin Station that day left with a greater perception of our police department specifically, that they are human beings, and vice versa. So if we can encourage that, or maybe if they would be interested in having some sort of partnership that we could have an event like that, even a dance or something, I just think it's a great community effort, and I just would like to applaud them for that and hope it continues.
I believe there'll be more discussions like that, yeah. Right. Now, are you finished?
Maybe.
Mr. Gordon?
I'm good. I pretty much said everything the last time around. Thank you.
Mr. Munson?
Mayor, I have a couple things I'd like to mention. First, welcome to the new members.
Thank you.
You're going to find that this is pretty exciting business, and it's going to be an opportunity to do a lot of good for a lot of people. You're going to find, too, that it is fairly time-consuming. It'll take all the time that you're willing to put into it, and then some. You earn your salary, and then some, but welcome. If anybody's noticed, the flags of Maryland are flying at half-staff. And the reason they're flying at half-staff is at the governor's order. Recently, very recently, a man by the name of Lieutenant General James F. Fredard died. I happen to have the pleasure of knowing General Fredard. He headed Maryland's National Guard for many, many years. And I sat on the budget committee, budget subcommittee actually, to which he reported. And I would like just to say that this was a great individual, General Frederick. He was a wonderful, wonderful patriot. He was an incredible soldier, military man, and he devoted his heart to the state. He certainly left the state a much better place than he found it when he initially got the job. General Fredard will surely be missed for a very long time. I'd also like to mention that, and I'm sure everybody in here saw this article, Cultural Trail Mural, Still a Mystery, by a guy by the name of Dave McMillan. And I just wanted to compliment Dave on this article. I thought this was a great article. It called a lot of attention to the cultural trail. I'm sure a lot of people saw this, that have questions about it. There were lots of details and lots of interesting things that Dave wrote about. And I expect that starting in the spring or thereafter, that we're going to start seeing a lot of people using this trail, hopefully as many as thousands of people using this trail. Rodney Tissue has put his heart and soul over and over again into this project, and I truly believe that this is going to draw people into downtown Hagerstown, which will help the businesses in downtown Hagerstown and produce jobs in downtown Hagerstown. So I just wanted to say thanks to Dave for this article. It's a good piece of work. And finally, I would like to say thank you to the voters who sent me here, sent me back here. I really enjoy being a city councilman for the city of Hagerstown, and I'm grateful to the voters that they got out and voted, and they voted my name, and I'm sure I'm speaking as well for the rest of the city council and the mayor in that regard. And for you new people, this job is an incredible challenge. It takes resources to run a city. And we don't have resources a lot of times, resources that we actually need. The property tax, as Kristen mentioned a few minutes ago, is not adequate, but we spend more in salaries and benefits than we take in on property taxes. And that's a real issue, but we have to deal with that. So, welcome, and I look forward to working with everyone here for the next 4 years.
Nothing additional? No?
I'm going to add one thing, and that is the Christmas tree lighting Friday night
Thank you, Mayor.
at City Park. 6 o'clock, hospice will be having an event. Aaron, it's called a Survivors? Pathways of the Heart, okay. And they light candles and luminaries, yeah. Okay, that's at 6, and then the tree lighting itself will be at 7 p.m. Looks like the weather's going to cooperate. It won't be freezing cold, which is always great, so. And that's all I have.
Mayor, I forgot to say something. I goofed last meeting. We went to the fairground last meeting to dedicate a new room over there, and I mentioned that the mayor and I were there, but I forgot to mention that Valerie was there also.
Thank
She
you,
came over
Councilman.
and did her duty as,
Thank you.
as city administrator, and
It's a cool area.
for those of you who
Very
haven't
nice.
seen it yet, you need to
Yeah.
get over there and see it.
Very
It's
nice.
it's a great piece of work that our Parks Department did, and it's going to be a very popular venue for all kinds of activities in this community.
Yep.
And the parking fee's good, too. It's free. Thanks, Mayor.
All right, with that, I get the last word. We're adjourned.
You're adjourned.
Thank you very
All
much.
right. Thank